All right. Hello, everyone. Let me know in the chat if you're here. I'm glad y'all made it. Found me here. Hey, Mom. I made it onto the NVIDIA Omniverse channel. This is the first time that I'm streaming to the Omniverse channel. If you've been around, I was streaming to my channel, but I made it to the prime time. So here we are on the Omniverse channel. Um, so this is going to be a bit of a test here. I just want to get a feel for the UI size and all that, make sure that everything's good before I overcommit with a lot of content. But we got a little bit planned here. So welcome, Victor, Siltax, VK. So we'll get started. Let me do the little beginning overview here. Okay. So this is developer office hour. This is where I answer questions, developer questions, coding questions that you may have. I start out with kind of common questions that we get on the forums that come up every week, and then it's kind of an open forum for anything you want to ask, and I'll try my best to answer it here or address it for another time. So anything that I show here today, I save the code in this repository here, and it is archived with dates for every stream that I've done, and you have a scripts folder for any little scripts that I show, or an extension if I end up showing something a little bit bigger. So I'll put that link here in the chat. And then also, as we record these, I also grab the timestamps, and every question that I answer, I put a link here in this Omniverse FAQ so that you have a quick reference to these questions as well. And that'll link out to our NVIDIA On Demand, and you can just rewatch the specific question that you may need a refresh on, or maybe you missed before and you want to catch it. And then this is then we take this and we'll incorporate it into our documentation. So without further ado, let's get started. Okay. First question here. How do I add UI widgets to the viewport in a behavior script? This is using Python scripting components. So this, I have to say, is not my own. It wasn't a question that was asked on the forums, but some code that was shared with me to look at, and I was like, yeah, this is a great idea. We have action graphs that we have the whole UI nodes that make it really easy to add UI to the viewport using action graph. You can actually do the same thing with Python scripting components. And so shout out to Justino from Discord for sharing this with me. I think it was a really great approach, and I hope you don't mind me sharing it with the world. So here we go. Let's start from the very beginning here. I'm going to browse to this extension directory so that I store it all in the same place. This is OmniDev office hours, and extension, it's going to be the last one. Cool. So I have my script here, but I'm going to add a new scripting component. I'm just going to add a prim here just to have something to attach it to. And I'm going to right click on the prim that I want to add it to, add Python scripting, right? So that's going to add some attribute here, a relationship actually, to add scripts. And now I need to create a behavior script. And we're going to create a new one, behavior script. we will call this viewport UI. And then we can go ahead and attach it. Just drag and drop it on there. And then I can edit my Python script. Cool. So it's going to create, this is going to open up VS Code directly. It's going to create that VS Code folder there right next to it so that we get autocomplete and all that good stuff. It's really good to use this workflow for creating new Python scripting components because you'll get the latest template for a behavior script, and we're still refining this and figuring out what callback functions, what functions should we expose here immediately so that so that you get up and running as quickly as possible. So right off the bat, we have on init and on destroy, which are called whenever you save and it reloads the script. Then these are timeline callbacks for when you click the play button, when you stop the play, pause the play button, when you stop it. And finally, this one calls on every update when you're playing back. So let's go back over here. Everybody, let me know in the chat if everything is coming through okay. And we are going to test this out really quick. Let's take a look at and see what this is doing. So if I press play, I'm going to get this output here on every tick, as I would expect from the on update. So everything is wired up correctly. And now let's do our thing here. We're going to get a viewport. So from Omni Kit viewport utility, import get my autocomplete kicking in. I actually want the viewport window. So great. And then on init, where should we do this? I'll just do it directly in on play. No, let's do on init. We'll get the viewport window. And we get the active viewport window. Easy. Then we'll get the frame. This is going to create a new frame in the stack for you on the viewport window. And we'll give it some really cool ID. Usually your extension ID is how we use it. But since we're not in an extension, you got to be a little bit creative here. And then on play, we can start to build our UI, right? So maybe I want this UI to only show. So with self frame, with UI placer, and we'll offset X by 10, Y some 50. I'm just going to place it somewhere globally. I didn't import Omni UI, so let's go ahead and do that. Okay. And so that's filling in correctly now. And then we can do an H stack. And now we can add a button. Okay, we'll call it test. And let's give it some size here. And we need to give it a callback for when it's clicked. All right, now we got to create that test function. and okay, print hello world. Everybody good? Everybody following along? Question about point clouds, we'll definitely get to that. Okay, so let's test this out. Everything is good. I don't remember if I saved and if that's the reload, so let's go ahead and do that. Clear this to confirm. Save it one more time. There we go. So when I save, script file updated, it did the on destroy. One key thing that I almost forgot. You have to be very careful when you're doing these UI things is you want to make sure that you are cleaning up the frame afterwards. So not on pause, but on stop, I want to get rid of that frame entirely. So self.frame destroy. I think that'll work, and potentially on the on destroy as well. All right. I feel like I don't want this on the on init. I want this in here. Okay, so that way every time I press play, I create a new frame and we use it, which also means that I should check here if self.frame has adder self. Do. Okay, just want to be a little bit cleaner here. Same thing here, and we'll set this one to none at the beginning. Make sure there's an attribute there called frame. Okay, much better. So this reloaded. Now when I press play, there's my test button, and I can press it, and it's doing the on update, which is really annoying. So let's comment that out so we can actually see what we're doing here. So there we go. And one more time. There's the hello world. Then I can stop it and the button goes away. And one more time. Everything's working as it should. So that's it for creating some viewport UI using a Python scripting component. Python scripting components are super flexible. We're giving you the keys to the kingdom. You can do pretty much anything that you could do with an extension in a Python scripting component. So give us some feedback if there's some weird behavior. There's obviously all sorts of edge cases that we could hit with this. So yeah, let us know how it's going and if you have any feedback. Cool. Any questions on this before I move on? All right. Then the other question was, how do I add extension dependencies to... Good morning. Let me share it here. How do I add extension dependencies to my custom extension? So let's take a look here. I've got an extension, a little templated extension here, and I'm going to make use of with some obscure extension. Not extension, I'm sorry, but yeah, extension. Let's see here. Something that I can disable that's not going to break everything. Okay, well, let's say Omni Audio Player. All right, let's take a quick look here. Get rid of those errors. Let's see if we've got some API here that we can call. Okay, so it looks like I can just do Omni Audio Player and instantiate an audio player object. Or maybe there's let's do create audio player. No, that's stubbed out, so it doesn't do anything. I'll create an instance of audio player. So let us minimize that one and go back to the main one. And I'm going to do import Omni audio player. And at the beginning, I'm going to do audio player is equal to Omni audio player dot audio player. And save it. Enable my extension. Dog. Oh no, I don't have this set up yet. One moment. Omni dev office hours. Hours. All right, now we got all these. And let's enable it. And I got an error here. It says that it doesn't know anything about a module named Omni Audio Player. And so oftentimes when you're just starting out with Omniverse, developing for Omniverse, you won't hit this because you're probably using code or you're using create, and you're using some extension that those that are already loaded here in Omniverse. And so they're in your application. So you never realize, oh wait, dependencies matter. So let's go back over, let's pick any of these. We can look at the dependencies tab here and see all the extensions that this depends on. On the far right is the extension that I've selected, and then it starts to pull in this network of all the dependencies. And maybe it only depends on like 2 of them, right? It only declares quick search and OmniKit commands, but everything else gets pulled in from there. And if we look at here in the TOML, we can see here how they declare their dependencies. There's the 2. Okay, so we need to do the exact same thing. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. If I come over here, I've got in my config, my extension TOML, and here I can go ahead and explicitly declare that dependency. Okay, the left side is the name of the extension, and then here in the curly braces you can specify an exact version, and you may need to lock off on a version in some cases, but it can often be easier to not be not locked to a version, because you don't know. If you have full control of how this extension is going to be used, then absolutely that'd be great to lock. But because you want the flexibility of people being able to load your extension into different apps. Each app may lock off, may have different combination of extensions with different versions. The most flexibility would be to not declare a version here. But pros and cons to each. So now if I go back to my extension, I probably should have shown mine before making this change, but come on. There it is. If we look at our dependencies, you can see the extension loaded now. The window is there. And we can see our dependencies. We have a dependency on OmniKit UI app and Omni audio player. And then that's going to pull in a bunch of other stuff. Whoa. So I think there might have been one more. Yeah. So I misused this API. It doesn't have a constructor for this class. I think it's meant to be used statically. But the point still stands is that now I'm not hitting an error for my dependencies, and everything should work as expected, and I can make that error go away. We don't actually need to use this API as long as we have that import there. That's enough to prove my point here. There we go. So now it loaded again. No errors this time around, and the red triangle's gone. So so that's dependencies in a nutshell. You can also have test only dependencies. We'll cover that some other time, but yeah, keep in mind dependencies are really important. You may not realize it at the very beginning because, like I said, you're developing in an environment where lots of extensions are already enabled. And also note that when I did that, it automatically enabled this extension for me. If you remember, I was explicitly looking for an extension that was not enabled. So yeah, you want to make sure you're keeping that in mind because your extension may be used in an environment where your extensions aren't there enabled by default. All right. So that is it for dependencies. Any questions on that? Otherwise, we can open it up for open questions. All right then. Let's take a look at the chat and see what we have. Let's go back to the point cloud one. So, is there a way to take the real-time output of an array of RGBD cameras and mesh their point clouds to display in Omniverse? So you can absolutely, the part that's fuzzy to me is but you probably know, is how to take the camera from the data from the cameras. But you can absolutely create your own meshes off of that data. Any of these meshes. So well, I guess you want to mesh their point clouds. So you would have to, if we're talking about custom meshing solution, then you do need to have that algorithm figured out for taking a point cloud and converting and building a mesh off of that. Once you have something that is triangulated and in a somewhat, doesn't need to be a watertight solid mesh, but once you have some sort of mesh built, Then you can create a mesh type prim and plug in the points attribute, which is just XYZ positions for all the points, and normals. You can those are optional if you're doing subview surfaces or faceted polygons. And then face indices. So that would face vertex indices. That would be from those points that you have, which points are used for each individual face, and then for those faces, how many vertices are in each face. So you would fill out these attributes for the mesh with your custom mesh data, and you could pop that right in. So you can do that. If mesh is a requirement, you could do that. Otherwise, for a point cloud, you could use USD geom points, which I don't have. I don't think we have a good. I'd have to create that manually. I don't know. We don't have that in the UI, I don't think, or an easy way to do that in the UI. But you can do. Import. If mesh is your requirement, then this is irrelevant. But I just wanted to show it, in case you are open to just a plain old point cloud representation. USD geom points. Define stage. Oh, that's interesting. I'm missing my snippets. USD, USD, context, get stage. So that's just going to get the stage. And now I can define my. Okay, so there's a USD geom points, and very similar. You just have a points array, and widths for those points. It would represent it as little balls, as spheres. And then yeah, everything else is kind of gravy on top. So yeah, let me know if that helps to answer your question. Bill is asking about the room generator extension that was shown yesterday. We have a live stream on Wednesday about it where you can ask lots and lots of questions. I know a little bit, but I don't want to. It'd be best to hear it straight from the devs. So that is a good segue for add event. We have this calendar where it lists all of our events. And here is that event on April 5th, 3 p.m. Eastern. If you open this up in your location, you'll get it in your time zone. And that's where we will be presenting that, as well as another really interesting generative AI project during the live stream. So come then, if you can, ask your questions. If you have some other question, just leave it here on the chat, and you can't make that time, leave it here on the chat, and I will do my best to try to ask it for you during the stream. Cool. VK, there was one more question before I jump to. There's a question about Toy Jensen using Omniverse, how to copy an avatar like Toy Jensen using Omniverse. I don't have too much information on that. There's been some recent experiments with audio to face, It wouldn't be quite Toy Jensen, but let me share that because I think it's really cool. Do 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 do. Yeah, so I don't know if you guys can hear this, but it's using audio to face, ChatGPT, Whisper, Google text to speech, and it's pretty darn close to the results from Tokyo. So, which is I believe that's the name of the technology that we use for Toy Jensen. Toy Jensen has its own model behind it, right? Because it has some knowledge of how Jensen would respond. But yeah, um, I've been tempted to do a project like that. Pretty much exactly like that. I think that might be fun to show all those connections and how you could do that. If that's interesting to you all, that I could look into making that my next Code with Me project. Yeah, exactly. So the Tokyo API is still not accessible to the public yet. You have to apply for early access, if I remember correctly. So that's why I showed this one. Is like uh, the rest of the technology is there already, and maybe you can piece together different APIs to do what you want in the meantime until we get access to Tokyo. Toy Maddie, I don't know. All right, there was one more. Yeah, VK was saying. Yeah, so VK, this one was for you. Do you have any specific questions after what I showed about dependencies? What I think is mostly happening for you is it's not related to test dependencies necessarily, but you need to make sure to declare um, all of your extension dependencies that your extension actually relies on. So in my case, I'm using Omni Audio Player, so I'm putting it in this dependencies block, not under the test, because there's another one called the documentation I showed you. You can do test only dependencies in a section like that. You want this straight into dependencies. And so in your case, you had OmniUSD, which I think also pulls in the USD libraries with the Pixar import. So you want to make sure that you do that. The reason that you're hitting this during testing and not during when you're just interactively testing in an app is because our testing framework will strip down, will launch Kit completely stripped down with only the extensions that you've declared as dependencies for your extension. So that's a really good way to test to make sure you've sorted out all your dependencies, because when you run the test, it'll immediately shoot an error that says, "Hey, you're trying to import this extension, and I don't know anything about this Python import because I don't know anything about the extension it came from." Does that make sense? So yeah, I'll have a closer look at the code the archive you sent me then, and check it. This was just my impression from the errors that you said you were running into, but it could be something else. So I'll have a closer look. Nonetheless, I thought this was a good topic to cover here because I think we all can do better about declaring our dependencies. I know I get lazy and just to rely on the apps to have them already loaded for me. So we'll follow up on the forum for sure. Any other question? All right, I think we can call it then. Oh, Julian had one more question. Did I miss it? Can we align and register point clouds from multiple real-time sources? It's definitely something. So along with that previous question is, it's definitely something to test out and let us know how that's going for you performance wise. We have some partners and customers that are doing that, but it's always good to hear from the community. But yeah, for the most part, the approach that I showed with using a mesh prim or USDG on points would be the place to start. And we may have ways to speed that up if you're not getting the performance that you're looking for. But the first thing would be to wire up your data, get it in, and let us know. Because we don't know the scale and the frame rate that you're really shooting for, or is required. But yeah, all that data helps. We're constantly working with customers and it's kind of this symbiotic relationship of, hey, look, we're trying to do this with all of this data, and it's all this CAD data, and we have it's a whole warehouse, but we also have everything modeled down to the smallest nut and bolt, and we want all of it. We want to see it all together, and so that helps us, gives us a target to aim for, as far as what we're how much we're trying to scale. Cool. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining this on the shorter side session. We will. I'll have. I think if everybody was happy with this, as far as UI scaling and all that, if everything was readable and sound came through okay, next week I'll shoot for having a few more questions ready to show from at the beginning. All right. Have a great weekend. Thank you for joining, and join us on Discord if you are not on Discord. Would love to chat more with you all throughout the week. And I'll put that link here. All right. See you, everyone.